Hey everybody, we are live for the first episode. If the episode, I don't know, a show, I think that's terrible, but we're here and you're here. And man, I had the crazy concept of coming up with this idea for what I'm calling office hours. And one of my favorite times during my LiveTime series was just hanging out with people and doing audits and having conversations. And that's with you guys. And so I said, hey, if you want to come on office hours and rap, let's do some cool stuff. And I got two people that have showed up already. I've got 4 more coming. But man, we're going to talk about podcasting today. And so without further ado, let's kick off office hours. Yeah, we did it. There's Doug. Hi, Zach. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being the first, crazy people to be like, yeah, let's go live with Alec and see what the heck happens. So, Doug Johnston, Zach Jones, let's start with you, Doug. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody your story, what you're doing, and why you jumped on this, and then we'll get you, Zach.
All right. So, Doug Houston, been with Loan Depot for almost 3.5 years now in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I've been watching Alec for most of this year, kind of teach the ropes here. No, it's been great. And, but I'm just ready to pull the trigger on it. I've been thinking about it and making a lot of notes, watching a lot of your podcasts. And I finally committed to, I want to be online by January 1st. And when you brought out these office hours, to me, that was kind of the catalyst to help me start getting very tactical and start taking actions. So glad to do it.
Right on. And we got some good questions from you, Doug. So Zach, what's your story, buddy?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alec. So I've been in the mortgage business maybe 18 years now, maybe close to 19. I've been with Loan Depot. I'm coming up on my year anniversary. So I kind of feel like I'm new to the company, but not really. I mean, it's such an easy company to be with. So it really feels kind of old hat and still kind of new. I'm every once in a while just still pinching myself a little bit, saying, is it really this good? So that's awesome piece of it. As far as the digital stuff is concerned, I think that there's so much to talk about and there's so much to teach about and to learn about that. The podcast thing just seems to be a logical. I'm drawn to them. I'm looking at pieces of them and listening to pieces of them online all the time. So as I've kind of explored around in my circle of influence, so many people are asking, yeah, I'll go on with you. And I just love that aspect of our business is that, everybody wants to talk and to teach and to learn. So I need to get my formatting down so that it actually works before I launch off. And so I'm excited, was super stoked to see this format come up with you being kind of the old bull in the podcast world at this company, teaching us younger guys how to do it and get launched off. So thank you for your time and for pushing out the invitation.
Absolutely, Zach. And thank you both for coming on. So, hey, if you're watching right now, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. That's always fun to this is interactive. We want your questions to come in too. This episode is going to be focused on podcasting. And so, Doug, you kind of have, and you want to kick one off. I mean, you're like on the edge. Where do you want to start? What questions do you have? Let's start with you.
I mean, I tell you, something as simple as your intro that you just did. I don't recall how to do that, but that was cool. So I do have my music, but I'd love to know how to do an intro for my podcast that I hope to do soon.
Dude, that's a great way to start. So for those of you that are watching us, I'm using Streamyard. So we're going to get a little tactical, and I'm totally cool getting tactical. That's what office hours is about. So I'm actually going to share my screen here. And it's going to look crazy, so buckle up, because now you got like the infinity podcast to infinity here.
Oh gosh!
So let me take off the overlay. So now there's no overlays, there's no names, there's no graphics, and ignore the infinity zone here. But one of the things you can see on the right side is video clips. You guys see these right here?
Right.
So the StreamYard platform allows you to upload video clips that live now on StreamYard. StreamYard's web-based. You just log in and then you're there. You don't have to download software. You don't have to have it on your computer. And anytime, I'll just hit this one again and it'll play. stopped it. Sorry. But now you can kind of see a little bit. Oh, we got a comment coming in. Let's just jump there. Oh, what's up, Sam? Good to see you, buddy. Now you can see a little bit how we run this show, so to speak. Now, to get the video clip in here, see the plus sign, it's very easy, upload video clip. And all I did is I work with a guy now like consistently, but for you guys or anybody else, I talk a lot about the Fiverr platform, right? So the Fiverr platform is an online community of artists, designers. There's 1,000 people there. And you can literally go there and search. I would search for YouTube intro, because that's where they're going to understand that more clearly. And you can see a whole community of people up there that I'm going to remove this and pull this back up, that do the YouTube intros, and they'll create one for you, and you can simply load it up on the screen. Thanks, Thomas. It's awesome. So, you know,
B-roll, just like the B-roll that you see so many tutorials on YouTube.
Exactly. Now the one that I created that has me talking, it's literally I uploaded B-roll. I mean, this is how stupid and simplistic it is. I went to Zoom. I opened up Zoom by itself. I hit record, and I just started saying random words and doing hand motions, and I did a few different clips of that, and I sent that to my guy, who edited into that kind of format where the things are moving, and now I have this intro with this music. I found the music on SoundCloud. You can go to Storybook. I think when you guys mentioned it earlier to find your intro music, Doug, is that where you went?
Yeah, Storybook.
Yeah, I mean, so Ashley gave us there's the link to Fiverr. And very quickly you'll have a professional intro, and maybe over time you don't have to spend tons of money on this, guys. I mean, you can spend, you know, $30, $15, maybe even like $10 to get a decent intro. But the real key here, Doug, and anybody else, is, you know, I didn't start when I had intros. I can do intros now. I'm more competent in this space. But like, if you want to kick a podcast off, you definitely don't need intros and sound. You just need to go. And then over time, as you keep doing episodes, you'll be like, okay, now let's up the game. Let's change the intro. I mean, my intro for my podcast has changed like 3 times because it was very simplistic. And then I was like, oh, I want to have more coolness. And I up my game and spent a little bit more money. But, you know, that's a great first question, is just how to get an intro. And, you know, I hope that was helpful.
Good.
Zach, let's go for one of your questions. What do you got, my man?
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about Streamyard being your preferred format. Is that, I mean, we saw the technical side of it. Is that kind of the practical ABC 1, 2, 3 beginner spot to do this?
Yeah, so I'll kind of come back into this crazy view for a sec. So what I love about Streamyard is it's web-based. So you go to streamyard.com, and for a very little annual fee, you get a lot of functionality. So the first thing I'll have you notice is we're live on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, my Facebook business page, and my Facebook personal page. So I'm getting a lot of platform kind of exposure at the moment. And then obviously you guys can kind of see the comment feature. You see it as a guest. You can see comment, but I can post them up on the screen, take them down. And then you have this thing called banners. So banners allow you to actually showcase questions and things on the screen. So if you're hosting a podcast and you have a series of questions you're going to ask the guest, you could already have them preloaded in here, and you can kind of show them as they come up, which is really cool. We got another comment here. So yes, James. Yeah, for sure. I become best friends with Fiverr. They all know me too. And yeah, StreamYard is so simplistic. You guys saw it as guests, how easy it is to access. And the last part is the overlays. So this is on, this is the one you get for free. You get this big StreamYard thing. But very quickly, you can use Fiverr again to create overlays. But I also have another training on this that I can send out later. I don't want to get too technical, but I use a free editing software called Canva. Right? So Canva is another really easy to use system that lets you design. Like I'm in here right now creating a YouTube design that you guys can see, and this is how easy it is to create, you know, anything you want. So my point with that is you get comfortable in there. Now you can create these overlays, and you can do 1,000 things with overlays. You can add office hours, you can add all the bumpers and banners, you can do this stuff. And this is really the power of StreamYard. And, you can get technically better. So like, for example, you could go to Fiverr and say, hey, I need an overlay that's got, 3 heads. Here's a screenshot of what the 3 are going to look like. Can you please add names and this stuff? And before you know it, you're off and running.
That's great. Thank you.
So go back to, and we talked, before this a little bit, but on StreamYard, the free version versus the not free version.
Yeah, you got to pay in order to get the custom overlays and all this other stuff. So unless you want to just use, this guy right here, not a big deal, or none. You got to pay some money. And I think for when you're getting into this now, so let's kind of reposition and pivot for a second, Doug, because there's 2 things here. What we're doing right now is kind of a video podcast, right? Like we're vlogging together. This isn't necessarily like an audio only pure podcast. And so the reason that StreamYard's powerful is not only could we do this, but as soon as we're done and I hit end broadcast, I can actually download the audio to my hard drive, and then I can post the audio only content onto the podcast networks. So you actually get like more pieces of content with one interview. So we're doing an interview right now, and this is going to live on YouTube, but I'm also going to have the audio, and I can do whatever I want with that. So it's almost like you get kind of 2 for 1 type of thing, which I think is really powerful. Plus, when you're podcasting or when you're doing interviews, I like to see your faces. Like, I want to see what's going on. I want to see how you're like, I want to interact with you better. And sometimes on a pure audio thing, that's harder. But Doug, so what else do you got on your list?
I was curious about, remote versus not remote. So if I'm going to start this, I've got a series of people that I think I want to interview. Some of them may be not technically proficient. So, would you invite them in, try to do a double camera type situation, or I don't know, just kind of walk through that. I've seen you do, like you had Anthony one time where he came in and the microphone here and you're right beside each other, with your headsets on. So kind of walk through that.
So it's all comes down to personal preference. So for example, I like having in-person podcasts because you're in a studio environment, you have the headsets on, and you just you're in with the person. And so there's no distractions, right? Like, you're right there with the person, you're talking face to face, you get to share that space with each other. And I think that creates a unique environment and gives you a unique result. But when you're live, it's a whole different experience, because then people think they're live. And there might be some nerves, there might be some stuff. And when you're virtual, there's distractions. Period. We can't help it. Like, our phones, like, how close is your phone to you? Like, we're just kind of distracted. So all of those create different experiences. And then you have, of course, just logistics. Like, are they close? Do they live near you? It's COVID. Are they comfortable being like in a room with you, breathing on each other? Like, all that stuff kind of comes layering in. And so I would say all of it. Like, do all of it. Like, have in-person experiences when you can. I even think sometimes doing a podcast and not being live is awesome, because then you see people relax if they're not comfortable, because they know you could edit it. They know that if they say something stupid, they get a chance to do it again. And you can give them that when you're not live. You can record it all, and then you can post-produce it, so to speak. So like, the cheapest, like the poor man's version of a podcast is just Zoom. Like, just go on Zoom and hit record. You're podcasting. You're going to save that afterwards. You can even take the video part, and go to Fiverr and say, I want someone to create cool overlays and names on my already done, video, and they'll edit it and put all that stuff on it. And then you can just post-produced, and it's not live. I think all those things are really good avenues. And I think that you should do all of them. And see which ones you feel more comfortable with personally, and like what you're like, oh, I like this better. I liked being face to face. I want to do those only, or I didn't mind the virtual one, or whatever it is. But I think that there's so many different ways to do it that none of them should be a barrier. You should just dive in.
Well, and then when you do it in person, is it necessary to have 2 microphones, 2 cameras, or is it just 1 camera, 1 mic, and you're just interviewing, right? How would you do that?
So it all depends on the quality you want to exhibit at the end, right? So quality matters in audio and podcasting. You want to hear your voice. And so, Doug, you and I had that conversation a little bit before we started about like microphone position. And so there's a difference when I talk to you guys here and I'm excited. And like, let's say you were on the other side of the room. And so we had the mic in between both of us. And that's the audio you get there versus we each have a mic and they're right here. And now the audience gets that level of audio together. So I would say that, can you do a podcast with a Yeti mic in between two of you in a room talking? Absolutely. And when you listen to it, you'll hear the kind of audio that you get when you're both speaking. In fact, there's a setting on the Yeti that allows for two people, right? So it's formatted so that one person's on this side, one person's on this side.
Right.
And I just think that it all depends on the level of audio you want to achieve. And I think that becomes more important if you start to really integrate podcasting as a core strategy for you for brand recognition and marketing and prospecting. If podcasting becomes, this is what I'm going to do to continue to build brand, prospect, build influence, then you'll start to upgrade over time. So I started with the Yeti mic. In fact, like I still have my Yeti mic, and I'm going on taking the kids to the Grand Canyon, and I'm doing some stuff, and I'm taking this on the road. But after about 6 or 7 episodes and things like that, I was like, you know what? I'm in. I'm going to play this game. So I bought the really nice mic, right? Like I upgraded because I was like, I'm going to play the game. And I want it to, I'm going to continue to elevate my own, position in it as best I can with learning new, like I'm using a really nice camera now. This is a really nice camera. It's a Canon $400 camera, like with a real lens and a real deal. Forever, I was just using my, maybe I can just actually switch over to it. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see if it happens. Oh yeah, there it is, dude. So there's my webcam. So this is what a webcam gives you. And you can actually see my little like light that you can't see on the camera back there. And then when I switch back to the actual other camera, this one, see the difference? Oh, and we lost him. He'll come back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So where do you want to go from here?
How about green screen? I just curious, like I know, like Brian Covey showed, his background is like this wooden wall, and I'm sitting there thinking, that's probably not a real background. I bet that's a green screen, but
he actually did that. Real wall.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think green screens are fun, but I don't think they're necessary. So, like, I have a green screen right there on my screen. So, Zach, is that okay? I muted you, Zach, for 1 second. I can pull this down, and now I have a green screen. Do I think that really is going to separate you from the pack and all this stuff? I don't think so. I don't think they're necessary, Doug, but I think that it's I see, this is how I frame it up in my mind. If you're having fun with it, if you're enjoying it, if it's like giving you entertainment and your energy and creativity is going up because you switch your background and now you're on a spaceship or, then do that more, like have more fun.
Right.
But if it feels like, oh, I got to figure this out, and how do I do the green screen? And it's becoming a barrier to you or anybody else to start doing stuff, then just kick that in the trash.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think that it's a do or die thing. I think it needs to be kind of just, if it gives you happiness, you're having fun with it, then do green screens all day long.
Sorry about I don't have control over my environment here at the house. So the vacuum was going upstairs. I apologize for that intrusion. That's a little technical challenge for you. You handled it masterfully, Alec.
Well, by the way, so this is a good kind of like, this is why live stuff has its ups and has its peaks and valleys, right? Some people love the fact that there was stuff going on and Zach had to deal with something and I muted him, and because they're like, oh yeah, I'm part of this live conversation, and stuff can go wrong. Sometimes when you're interviewing guests or doing podcasts, they're like, I don't want to be live. They get really uncomfortable, and that's going to take down the quality of your interview if they're not comfortable.
Right.
So, Zach, let's open it up here. What other questions did you have for me?
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit, and I'm fascinated by this, the Streamyard ability to broadcast on different channels.
Yeah.
So that's obviously an integrated piece of it. You've spoken in other podcasts, kind of technical podcasts, about the uploading the audio into all these different podcast formats. So you're stripping the audio off of the video cast vlog recording and then uploading it into a system. And there's one, I think, that distributes to different channels. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. And then can you guys see this on the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't see you right this second, but this is Simplecast. And Simplecast, if you go to simplecast.com, you can basically create your podcast here. So, I only have one show, but you can see you could click create new show. And then you can add an episode. And literally, I'm not going to do one here, but you can make the title. You can don't have to worry about this, but here's where you drag and drop the audio file, like right here. So you save the audio file after the experience, and then you just hit the button, browse, upload. You can do a summary, you can add notes, and then you just hit go. You can add additional art, and then you hit publish. And right now you can see these are all the podcasts I've done. Well, it's showing I've done 37. And I have one pending because I just did one with Devin. I do them live now, but now I publish just the audio portion coming up on the podcast. And so it's really quite simple. I mean, that's all you have to do. Oh, in fact, I got to get rid of the overlay again because it complicated it. But does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, easy. Yeah, you just create and you got to pay for Simplecast, but Simplecast will distribute. So here's where you can kind of poke around. Show distribution right here, right? Am I still sharing the right screen, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Here you go. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora. I mean, you could share them to every single one of these if you really wanted to.
Wow.
I keep it pretty simple, and I really only share it to Spotify, the main ones, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and try to keep it relatively simple. But you can do whatever you want. And to me, this is how, I got a good friend named Kyle Draper who talks about this concept of content compounding, which is like making one piece of content do more work for you. Mm-hmm. And there is no better content than a podcast to compound. So like this right now could this is now a video interview style podcast thing. This can very easily turn into an audio only podcast thing. Mm-hmm. This can very easily turn into snippets. So I can take the entire thing down. I can watch it again and go, hey, Zach asked a really good question at minute, 23:08. And I think I got a really good answer to that that ends at minute 24.4. And then I can cut that snippet out. And now I can share that as just a part of this macro conversation. And I'm going a little bit down a rabbit hole, but it's really cool how one podcast could be 17 things you can share over time.
I saw Chris Medellin did a snippet with Bill Hart on Facebook that I saw this morning, and it was just exactly that. It was like the little Joe Rogan pieces that you run up on YouTube, where you get enough, and it's like, man, I'm going to go listen to that one. It's a great driver, and it's like mini content. Yeah,
and I like to simplify things in my brain. So like, this is contemporary marketing. Like this is marketing, right? This is what I used to do when I went to broker previews every Thursday and Friday and open houses every Saturday and Sunday. I was doing that because I knew I wasn't going to get a loan. I wasn't going to walk into an open house and here's a loan. But I knew that I was meeting all the agents. I was building rapport. I was building relationship, and I was gaining reputation. So when you start to lean and realize that podcasting and content creation and videos is just it's just marketing. It's just in a new way. So for example, Doug, I know you're thinking of an end of the year podcast called Real Estate Matters, right?
Right.
So I love that. I think that's such a cool heading or title because it gives you so many things to talk about. And I can just imagine, you interviewing certain guests and really diving deep into all things real estate. and providing people with tons of information and knowledge. And of course, when they have a loan question, they're going to come to you and get their loan.
That's the plan.
That's the game.
Right.
You're not just making videos being like, I'm the best loan guy ever. Here's all my reviews. Here's how many deals I closed last year, because no one really cares. Instead, you're adding value to their life with education, maybe some fun, maybe some inside knowledge. And I think that's really a powerful angle. And that's where podcasting, like if you guys dive in, it allows you to just do so much more with it. Plus, here's the other thing that I think is cool. You have to realize that when you start podcasting, that not the whole world doesn't stop and like, holy crap, Doug has a podcast. It's not how it works. The same way when you walk into a broker preview, the realtor's like, oh, thank God Doug's here. Like, that's not how it works. But over time, like imagine your episodes and your snippets, you're gathering velocity. You can share those with your past customers and your real estate community directly through your e-blasts. And so you can go online and record it. So like we're doing one right now. Right now, there's only like a dozen people watching across the platforms, but most of the viewers count for me is going to happen over time as this video continues to move through the internets. And the same thing with your podcast. You can send it back to your old customers. You can send it back to your prospects and agents. And then you can post snippets, Zach, to your point, where they'll go, oh yeah, I meant to go watch that, right, but I didn't have time. I was busy, whatever it was. And it's crazy how much this can help your business. Crazy. So what else do you guys have on the question list here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, okay, so I've got Streamyard, obviously, this format, and that pushes out to, like I said, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, various like that. But then you got into Simplecast, which is pushing the audio, I believe, to the main podcast stations. So do you get feedback? Like, do people go to Apple and listen to your audio podcast?
Yep. So let me do this. That's a great question. So as I answer this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give my content to people in the format they want to experience it. Right. So I just only stored it on YouTube, and I kept pointing everyone back to YouTube to go watch the videos. That may not be the vehicle they want to consume the content. They might want to have it in on a podcast where they can have audio only, and they go for a run or a walk in the morning or a bike, and they want to hit play on the podcast, and they just want to listen while they do their workout, or they do their walk, while they do their emails. And so like right now we're live on social media channels, but this will also exist forever on YouTube in my playlist there. So wherever they want to go see it, that's what I'm trying to meet them. And so that's why I also do the audio only version. And here's kind of here's the deal. So this should be back to the podcast screen, right, guys?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if I go to analytics, you can see a bunch of stuff that's going on. So right here, you can see that like in the last 6 days since I released my podcast with my buddy Rob, I have 73 downloads of it. Here's kind of the history of the last few. Here's where they're listening from. So 4,740 listens are coming from Apple Podcast. So you get your analytics of what's going on. And that allows you to kind of understand, okay, so people are listening. There are people that prefer an audio only version of this interaction, like of our conversation right now. Somebody probably is going to go like, I'll listen to that later. And that's how you can kind of check out what's going on the audio stuff. And when I share the content that I've done, when I share the videos, when I share this, because I'm going to reshare this again to my email list and all the people around, I'm going to share both. Like, here's the podcast, and here's the audio. Here's the video podcast, and here's the audio podcast. What do you want to watch? What do you want to listen to? So I think you give your audience different ways to consume your content, so to speak.
Right. That's great.
Well, we all consume it on different formats too, depending on what the activity level is. Laying in bed at night, I'll watch YouTube, but if I'm working out or if I'm doing yard work or whatever it is, I'm going to go audio only. And it sometimes annoys me if I can't find the audio because I don't want to burn the battery life on my phone with a YouTube video playing in my pocket. You understand what I'm saying? So it's 100%. Yeah, it's smart to split it off. So a couple of other questions, and we've touched on these a little bit. So maybe actually answered some of them. I had a question about the ideal time duration for podcast content. some of that can be monitored or adapted or changed just by editing. And then also maybe concurrently, is there a better or worse time to go live with content? I don't know. That maybe that question is a moot question anyway, because if you're publishing it everywhere, then it doesn't matter what time it goes live. People are probably not watching it live. I don't know.
Everyone wants to try to hack the system with like, what's the algorithm say? And when should I go? If I go live at 11:05, like that's the time. And I think all that stuff personally is just kind of garbage.
Yeah.
I think that, number one, we have to take ourselves not so seriously. And what I mean is, like, the world doesn't stop because Alec's live right now with Doug and Zach. So, and you guys know, like, your pipelines are full. Like, the world's crazy right now. And so I fully recognize and have enough like humility to be like, I'm not famous. Like, this is not how it works. So when I put out this content and we're hanging out and talking, like, I'm like, okay, people, by the way, for the last 31 minutes have been coming in and out. Like, I can see them. They come in, viewer count goes up, viewer count goes down. Like, they're busy. An email came in, their kid ran into the room and knocked over their coffee, whatever it is. And so you get the most value from consistency, meaning showing up and doing things like this on a repeating basis. That's where you get most of the power from this, not necessarily in your individual episode. And you get the power of this because the internet is going to go, it goes on forever. So your video that you do lives on as people comment or see it for the first time or go back in time and look at it, or you email it back out to your past customers and they view it for the first time. So there's no real, I don't think there's an ideal time, except that you need to be consistent. And if that's one a month, then that's one a month. If that's one a week, that's one a week. Whatever you can hold yourself to. But then in terms of how long should the podcast be, the duration, I have, now this is going to come as personal preference, but I think it needs to kind of land between that 45 and that hour mark. I think if you start going over that time, that people get distracted. And to your point, Zach, you might listen to something before bed, or you're doing your bedtime routine and you're listening to a podcast, but when you're done with that, you're going to go to bed. So the podcast better be done or you're going to bed. But I also don't think that that's necessarily something you have to hold on to. If your podcast is done in 30 minutes and it's done, there's no more questions, it's wrapped, wrap that thing. Like, don't just push it because you think you should push it. And if you're killing it and you're at the hour mark and you're just like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I'm jamming with my guests and this is don't cut it. Like, let it be what it's supposed to be. But I just kind of use that as a frame of reference to kind of hold myself to it. But I have some podcasts that have gone 30 minutes or a little bit less. And I have some that push the hour mark and I'm like, holy crap, we could talk for another 4 hours. Right. But we gotta let people go back to their day. So I don't know. Is that helpful?
No, it's totally helpful. And again, the idea of editing these things and pulling stuff out, I think is useful too, because I think that there are people who won't commit more than 20 minutes, to anything in their life anymore. So yeah, it's just an interesting, and like you said, you're not going to hack every, ideal person psyche to listen to a podcast too. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, James has a really thoughtful comment here, and it goes really long. He talks about Live Pigeon, which is another way to kind of film and then pretend like you're live type thing or post it live. But one of the things here that I love is people are overthinking this too much. And that's right in the middle of his comment. And James, thank you, because I agree. Like, people are overthinking it too much. They're over-preparing. And that's why in that one thing, Doug, where I talked about podcasting in another training we did for Loan Depot, was just open up Zoom and talk to somebody for 40 minutes. There's your podcast. You're done. Like, stop overthinking it. Forget the intro. Forget the bumpers. Forget the music. Do that. And then do the next one. And then do the next one. And then if you decide you want the intro music to come on, then put an intro music. But like, there's so many people who are like just waiting to kind of line up all the dominoes. And I think that is that stalls you out. Because here's a good example, Doug. Like, you might your real estate matters topic. You might go 6 episodes in and be like, you know what? It's gonna change. I'm going this direction with it. Because you go on fire and then if you spent all this time creating intros and bumpers for Real Estate Matters and now you're doing something different, it's like you got to have some fluidity here. Like I don't think, kind of going back to topics, I don't think they have to be necessarily real estate or mortgage centric. I mean, I know that's what we do, and that's okay. But I think the power is making sure it's something you actually care about, so it doesn't start feeling like a job. When it's grindy and you're like, oh, this is a job, this sucks, I hate this, I don't want to do this anymore, you'll never stick with it. But when it's something you care about and you're passionate about and you're having fun, I think it'll push deeper. Because remember, the whole goal of the podcast is building relationship with humans, right? Like spreading knowledge, being helpful, building influence, building relationship. So it could be on, baseball. It could be on whatever. But I love that. I still love that Real Estate Matters topic, Doug. Do you have guests or like thoughts of what episodes, like what content you're going to put in there as the episodes?
Yeah, I've created a list. I got them in front of me now, but anywhere from top real estate producers, like #1 in the market for like the last 20 years running, legends in real estate. I thought about, there's a few people, literally they're 45 years in the real estate board, so maybe get a couple legends on and talk about old times when you had the MLS books and
so good,
whatever like that.
I love that.
Maybe, top rookies. There's a local guy. I'm in Virginia Beach, so there's a lot of water around here, and there's a guy known for flood insurance. He goes in and helps you. Flood insurance rates can be very expensive, so he'll go mitigate your home through certain tactics to lower your flood insurance cost. So he's a natural, I think, for something like that.
That's cool.
There's, maybe a couple of appraisers. I think right now, especially with COVID and the whole not going into the house and whatever like that, people are interested in that. So those are a handful. So, and part of, we're talking about consistency. I've said I want to do it on a monthly basis, but, because I feel like I can commit to that. My guess is I'll feel comfortable and want to do it more often than that. So I'd be curious your opinion of, like, when I do my first one, should I even call it a monthly podcast? Should I just do it? I almost don't want to call it a monthly because I don't know what it's going to end up being. Here's
how I would start. And for anybody listening, this is how I would start. I would not do live. I would record my podcast.
Okay.
Chris Medine records his podcast right now. And that's why you saw a snippet of the podcast before it's actually released. And that's creative. That's a little teaser. Like, it's coming. My content ends up being clipped afterwards. So it's like, hey, you missed it. Here's a clip. Go back and watch it. Two different messages. But I think, Doug, so this is exactly what I did. I was like, I'm going to have 12 podcasts this year in 2020. That was my goal, right? I finished the 100 videos in 100 days, throw that in the dump, do that crap again. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do one podcast a month. So I started to find a list, just like you did, Doug. And I started inviting guests. And I got John Bianchi, and I got Tammy, and I started with Loan Depot people, of course, because they have to say yes, they work with me. Otherwise, I'll make them feel bad. And so I got my list, and then I started recording. And I had like 4 or 5 done in a Dropbox, like ready to go. And I was like, I'm going to launch these every month, right? Like they're done. I got 4 months done. Now I don't have to worry about it. So then I started putting them out, and I found out it was so easy, way easier than I thought, to find guests, that I was like, literally in about a week's time, I was like, holy crap, I can go every week. Like, oh my God, I did not know. And I'm having a blast. Like, I'm meeting people, we're chatting, we're having cool conversations. I'm learning about Anthony Shea, dropping donuts off to realtors when he was a loan officer. And I'm like, this is awesome. So I think it'll build momentum likely. I don't think you have to sit down and say, I have to do it one a month. I think you can be open-handed with it and go, what is it going to turn into? By the way, I'm taking my kids to the Grand Canyon later this week, right? And so normally I do podcasts on Thursdays. I'm not going to have a podcast on Thursday. I'm going to be in the Grand Canyon. So it's okay. Like, my audience isn't like, oh no, Alec didn't do a podcast this week. Like, I know they don't care. Like, no one. So it's one of those things where I think that you just come at it and it'll blow your mind, actually, both you guys, on how fast this thing becomes, like, it takes on a life of its own. And just all of a sudden now you're like, wow, I didn't even know, like, my momentum picked up so much. I can do one a week now, if that's what it turns into, Doug. It could be it could be 2 a month instead of 1 a month.
Right.
I would record them, and then I would publish them on certain months and kind of get a cadence of consistency, and then go, is this good? Is this easy? Can I do more? What's happening? And just analyze it as it goes.
Okay. I like that.
All right.
No,
What else you got?
I think that's great feedback too. That's awesome. Maybe a little of expounding on variation in content. Is it best to stick to a known topic? I've got some ideas about how all that branches out from real estate. Because Doug, you talked about it with flood insurance. We put in a pool 3 years ago, and I want to have my pool guy on because I think he's freaking amazing and fantastic. And we're driving some business with each other, doing cash out refinances because now everybody wants a pool in COVID.
Yep.
So there's a lot of little rivulets to go down,
I think that the one thing everyone should focus on, including you guys, on launching a podcast is, what's your lane? Like, where are you? What is your intent with what your message is? It can change. I know people that run seasons of podcasts. They're on season 3, and season 3 of their podcast is something radically different than what season 1 was.
Right.
Totally okay. But I think you got to really go, okay, what's the point of the podcast? So my podcast, and I'll give you some examples, is modern lending. Right? So modern lending is pretty broad, right? It's just origination, sales, marketing, platform, but it also talks about, I can bring in Barry Habib and talk about the bond market, even though that's not necessarily like modern origination strategies, but it still kind of fits in my lane of modern lending. I think that, very broad topics like Doug's Real Estate Matters is awesome because you can bring in appraisers and inspectors and real estate pros and flippers and contractors and pool guys, and you could bring in all those people because it's all real estate's so broad. There's so many things in real estate. How to increase the value of your home before selling. Like, that could be a whole podcast with multiple guests. Tons of stuff you can do that way. But you really got to continue to land back on, what am I trying to do with my podcast? Remember, this is modern day marketing. You're building influence and reputation in order to get an opportunity to help people with their financing. So if you're going to stay in that lane, you'll find out that you can still go pretty broad. You can bring in some totally outside the world thing. Another example for real estate is mental toughness, mental fortitude. Okay, that's not necessarily real estate per se, but a lot of realtors, would your audience of real estate professionals, would they like to listen to somebody who was an military mindset guy now? That's where you can definitely reach out and pull in some stuff from outside. But every time you do, you should just be like, okay, what's my lane? What am I trying to give the world? And then if it shifts, then end your season and start a new one.
That's great. Thank you for that. I didn't even think about that piece of it, but like mental toughness applies to every buyer in Middle Tennessee, because you're going into battle on every house that you get interested in. 6 multiple offers and first day. And I'm coaching people on that. I'm like, get ready,
Yep. I think that as long as you focus on what you're trying to land with and what you're trying to contribute and provide value with, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah.
All right, let's do final questions. We have the final 2 questions, guys. Do you have anything else you want to pull out here?
This is minor, and I see this on the screen now. We've got the 3 squares, but in some earlier podcasts, you've got a square of I don't know how to describe it. There's a banner around the 2 faces.
Yeah.
Is that built into Streamyard?
Zach, I'm going to pull you off the thing. I'm going to go to 2 here. So, and then I'm going to take off the banner. So now there's 2 of us, right? So this would be like a normal interview, and I'll share my screen here. So it's crazy. But you see this overlay right here?
That's it. Yeah.
So I'll do this, and then I'll drop there we are. So now this is what I used for Devin in my interview with Devin. But again, this is just a Canva overlay. So this was I built this thing in Canva. I put it into this. I uploaded it into this thing here, and now I've got my overlay. And this is a 2-person one for office hours. So you can see I shrunk the boxes on this one, and this one has the wider box. But this is kind of the power of overlays. And this takes a little bit of practice, right? Like of building an overlay and uploading it in the system and going, does it work? Is it cutting people off? Can everyone see everything? That takes some practice. I can tell you that I've gotten inside StreamYard with other teammates like Ashley on my team and like tested overlays. And I'm like, oh crap, this one's covering your face. Like, oh crap, this one doesn't work in this environment. Like, and then you have to strip it out and overlay it. But here's an example. If I go to this view that StreamYard allows, my overlays are all jacked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of have to remove them, and now I have this view. I could build an overlay for this view that has the logo and names, but you know, I like this one, and I hate this one. This is just terrible. But again, that's personal preference. But that's a great tactical question. Like that's why we're doing this. Is just let's talk about how to play, right? Like figure this out.
So are those in Canva? Are those the screen areas that we're seeing in the 3 screens? Those are blanks in the frame, because I'm pretty familiar with Canva and amazed by it, its adaptability.
So you see my screen on Canva, guys?
Yeah.
So
yes.
Here is my office hours templates. So I'm going to pretend to edit it. So look, this is the double screen one. So I can literally type someone's name in here, right? This is the one with 3 of you, and I could type names in here, or all 3 of us. And so what I do here is, and here's one with 4. So it'd be me and 2 other people. When I go to download this, I click transparent background. See that button right there?
Yep.
Right.
When I download with transparent background, all of this white is going to be transparent. So when I come back to here and I want to add it, it just pops on top of the screen. And all the white you don't see anymore, right? You just see the names and the graphics. So
do you use that background, this gray background in StreamYard?
Ah, good. So down at let me share my screen again. On the right-hand side over here, after so we have our overlays, right? That pop on top of the screen. We've seen those, right? Boom, like that. Then you've got the video clips we talked about that will play out the song. Mm-hmm. Now you got backgrounds.
Uh-huh.
So the backgrounds are the gray behind us. I just made it purple. This is the one StreamYard comes with. I could put us in the mellow building. I like the white wood one.
Give you some Brian Covey wood background.
That's the Brian Covey wood or the brick. So you can upload right here with the plus sign any background you want. Okay. And it's gonna lay on top of this thing, and you're rocking and rolling.
And there's a bunch of backgrounds in Canva that you can. Yeah.
So again, I think you just start poking around with these things, playing with them, and you'd be surprised where this stuff evolves to. But to anyone listening and to you guys, like I'm always pushing back. Like, don't let the fact that there's now I got to learn Canva and I got to learn, oh my God, and then you don't do anything. Doug, you get it, right? It's like all of a sudden there's so many people that it's a paralysis analysis, whatever it is. Like they just don't do stuff. And it's like, no, you just
to done is better than perfect.
Done is so much better than perfect. And as you continue to do, trust me, you'll like pick up skills. You'll get more comfortable. You'll start like realizing, hey, I can up my game here. And then of course you start the collaboration. So this is like what we're doing here. And this is a good note to end on for everybody watching and hanging out. Like this is how you get better, is you just start playing. Like you start asking people who are doing stuff, how are you doing it? And then you learn from them, and you go to YouTube and you go, how do I make a transparent background in Canva on YouTube? And you watch that video, and you just get more comfortable by doing.
Right. So
hey, we're gonna wrap it up. Doug, Zach, being the first guinea pigs, I so appreciate you guys. This is super fun. I had a ton of fun. If anybody watching this in the future wants to be part of Office Hours, we're coming back at it every Tuesday, 9:30. There's the text number below over there, wherever it is. Text that number, and I'll get you, or send me a DM, and we'll get you on the show the next time. So, Doug, Zach, thank you guys.
Good. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna lay it out. See you guys.